Today, back in business. I understand you had a bifabrenga last night. We're still aroused, we're still inspired by the fabrengen. What? Still sleeping? We're going to bring some more. Except this is what's called a dry fabrengen. We're going to talk about current events. What current events is? The Parsha of the week. And Sffirass, which is also in Parsha of the week. And Pesach Sheni, which is also in the week. And maybe, if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about Lag Baimer, which is also almost in the week. We'll start with Sffirass, because that is really the actual time, and it's also in our Sedra. Sffirass, you know that this is what you count the days between the Korban Pesach and Shavuos. And it's brought down that this counting was actually started. We, the Jewish people, are the ones who initiated. We started it before the Rebbe Hashem gave us the mitzvah. We started counting, because when we left Mitzrayim, and Moshe Rabbeinu told us that we are going to receive a Torah, we're going to receive our covenant, our constitution with the Meibushin, and we were anxious to get it already, and we were counting the days, each day, because each day was another day closer, another day of preparation that we accomplished towards receiving the Torah. What word are you looking for? Initiate? Initiate. Start it. Shouldn't be afraid to ask. Initiate. This counting, it's an interesting thing. All you do is just simply count the days. Very simple operation. And yet, it has so much significance, such a profound effect, such a deep effect, that this is what prepares us for Matan Torah. And we say every day when we count the Sfira, we say that the Hashem gave us the mitzvah to count the days, so that your nation, that we should be cleaned of the impurities of dirt by this count. I would like to focus in on this count and get a little bit of a feel. What does this count do, and how it has this effect of purifying us dragging us out of zuhamo, of impurity, of dirt. There's an interesting thing that the Rebbe points out in one of the sikhs, that Sffirass Omer, we count 49 days. And the fact is that even though we make a bracha every day on Sffirass Omer, yet it is every day, but there is also a total, 49 days, 7 weeks. And if we missed one count, then because we don't have the total, we can no longer count with the bracha. In other words, it is two things. It is a total count, it is an individual daily count, and also there's the total. And then there's another kind of a paradoxical point. Paradoxical means that we're counting a sequence, 49 days. Normally when we count a sequence, order. First, second, third. Like we count every day of the week. We count Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, Yom Revi. First, second, third, and fourth. Except for Shabbos. Shabbos has a special title, but every day it has a count. We don't say Echot, Shnayim, Shalosh. We say Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi. First, second, and third. Because if you have a sequence, an order, especially in Sffirass Omer where the order counts, but you have to have a total number of 49 days. So we should have been counting first, second, and third, or 28th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 29th. The sequence. We don't count the sequence. We count 28. Day 28. Day 1. Not day first. Day 1. Day 2. Day 3. Not day second, day third. In other words, each day is a standalone count. It's a separate thing. It stands on its own. And then at the same time, we say it stands on its own, but it is so many weeks and so many days. We count the weeks also. In other words, we have the total as well. We include all the days that preceded it also. All this obviously has a significance. And since that we say that counting the Sfira has such a big power, that we should be cleaned of our impurities, we ought to understand what is this count and why it's set up in this form. We spoke many times, and there are many things that I repeat whenever I have a chance because of their tremendous importance, and also both tremendous importance and also something not so easy to relate to, something not so easy to acquire and to get that power and that strength. And that is that even though in our lives, in Torah and mitzvahs, our lives as Jews, we are doing things repetitively. Repetitively means we are doing the same thing over and over again. Every day we daven the same davening. Almost identical. the whole order of the day is similar. We say Moide Ani, Vashnegalaser, and so forth, and then we go. It's like a repetitive thing. There is not the difference one day or another. So then one would say, what's the point? I already did it. I already know how to do it. Where is the encouragement? Where is the inspiration for me to do it again? I know Moide Ani by heart. I know it in my sleep. What's the point of me saying it again? How do I relate to it? I'm a human being. I'm an intelligent person. I'm not a baby, not a child. It has to have meaning to me. So we explain, and as I said, this is something which we have to reflect on and understand. That every person, particularly a Yid, has to recognize that the fact that the world wakes up every morning, he goes to sleep at night and wakes up in the morning. And then the same thing, there is the yearly cycle, there is the seasons, there is the spring, the summer, the fall and the winter. This is not a natural phenomenon, even though it occurs because of the effect of the sun and the moon and so forth. But it actually represents, it shows to us, and we have to reflect on it and recognize, it shows to us that the world is, in the words of the Frierdiker Rebbe, a living body. It's alive. It's not a physical entity that just has certain phenomena in it. It's a living body that represents a will, a rotzen, a nefesh, a neshama. And because it's a living body, it's a living world, just as life itself, life is a miracle. Life is not something that we, human beings, can understand with our seichel. We cannot put a limit. Oh, that's what life is. If you see a table, you say, oh, I've seen a table. I know what it is. I'm not interested to see another one. Life is not like that. Life we can never get tired of. And every person is another neshama. The reason for that is that life, nefesh, neshama, emanates means it comes from, it reflects the source of life, it reflects Hashem himself. In other words, yes, Hashem created the world, but Hashem himself is also present in the world. In what way? In the fact that we see life, that we see the world rejuvenates. It's alive, and it's constantly as young today as it was 5,000 years ago. Didn't become old. Something that is alive, you don't get tired with. You can get tired of something that is just a body without a soul. something, life itself, you don't get tired. Because it's not repetitive. It's constantly new. It's refreshed all the time. It's not, this moment is not the same as a moment ago. It's a new life. It's a new force. A new enthusiasm. And we always point out, that when we wake up in the morning and we say Moide Ani, it isn't, there's another day, no. This is a new day. And we wake up with anticipation and with a life, things have rejuvenated. And the person himself also recognizes that he went to sleep tired and he wakes up and he's a new person. It's a different person. That is a miracle of life. And the purpose of saying Moide Ani and of davening in the morning is to make us aware of the reality that we are experiencing on a daily basis. It is absolutely a must that we should recognize what is going on around us. We should recognize that the life and the excitement, the meaning that's going around us. We're not living in a stale and a dull world. And that way, when we wake up in the morning, we are starting afresh every day. Even though we had a day before, but now, this day, we start from scratch, from the beginning. And when you start every time from the beginning, you don't go back to the time when you did not know all of this. You start from the beginning at the level where you are today. The Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that infinity, Ein Sof, we cannot comprehend and understand what Ein Sof is. But one thing that illustrates to us what Ein Sof is, and that is that if you take the ocean, you can see the ocean, it's a huge amount of water. And then you take one drop. So one drop relative to the ocean is totally insignificant. It's true, it's insignificant. But nevertheless, there is a count to the number of drops in the ocean. So let's say, for argument's sake, there are a billions drops in the ocean. I mean, it's impossible even to name the number, right? If you take one drop. If you take two drops, there is half as many in the ocean. If you take three drops, there's a third as much. In other words, it does have significance because it's composed of these drops. And if you take a million drops, surely that's significant relative to the ocean in comparison to one drop. But Ein Sof means that one and any huge number are exactly identical. No difference whatsoever. Das meint Ein Sof. Okay? Since, I would like you to understand this, since that our relationship, our avodah, to Hashem is to Hashem Himself. Our way is to Ein Sof. Therefore, every day when we start from the beginning, when we start a new day, we start from the very basic. And we have the same amount to understand today as we had yesterday, even though today we understand much more and much deeper, much clearer than what we understood yesterday. And this is how our life goes on, repeating the same thing, and we are in a completely different experience on a daily basis. Because we understand Hashem, we understand the world, we understand Ein Sof, completely different one from the other. And this can go indefinitely. For a day, for a year, for 10 years, for 20 years, for 120 years. This experience, this is the true human experience. This is the meaning of life. A person is an engineer, he makes money. A person is a doctor, whatever it is. Whatever other worldly experience one has, this has all a limited purpose and limited meaning, experience. The real experience of life is precisely in this. The insight and the understanding and the true experience of what it means to live. What does it mean that the sun rises in the morning? What happens? What does it mean to me? And what does it mean to me the next day? Completely something different. This means life. With this approach, one can live a responsible and a disciplined life because he has a sense of real living without going out wild and wasting his time. Because he has a real experience in life. And every moment is dear to him. Every moment is significant. Every moment is a real experience.
How did you relate that to the idea of the mushal of the drops in the ocean?
No, the drops in the ocean is to illustrate the difference between Ein Sof and something mugbal. So, and now I'll come back, since that Ein Sof, the Alter Rebbe says, means that there is no difference between one number and another number relative to the Ein Sof. Mm-hmm. So therefore it means that if I learned yesterday and I'm going to learn today, I'm starting from scratch as if I never learned it before. And I start to understand the Inyan again as a new thing.
That's what everything that you do.
Right. The Gemara says that the Chachamim in time of the Gemara, the Alter Rebbe brings it down in Tanya, they used to learn every halacha, every Inyan in Torah 100 times. 100 times. Were they dummies? And then the Gemara says that the one who learns it 101 times, oh, he is beyond reach. He is the real thing. What is that? And I want to challenge any one of you. Forget about 100 times. Forget about 100 times. Take a piece of Gemara, take a piece of Chassidus, and learn it 5 times. Not 100 times. And see whether it makes a difference. And see how you understand the Chassidus after you learn it the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, and the fifth time. And you will see that it will be a completely different piece of Gemara, completely different piece of Chassidus, completely different understanding. And you can project from this what would happen if you learned it 10 times, 20 times, and 100 times. But this you can only project.
You'd write a Gemara, you wouldn't just learn one.
I'm going to repeat again what I said because I want to kind of emphasize the importance that you should understand this is reality. This is not nice talk. Real living means to live with a real life. To recognize that life is real. Life itself is meaningful. And to know Torah and to know Hashem and to know that the world rejuvenates. We say the world comes afresh, right? The world is renewed every day is a very great insight. This is what makes life real. This is what we get from Hashem. This is the means by which we recognize that Hashem is with us. And Hashem is there with us. Coming back to Sffirass Oimer. Sffirass Oimer, we say, we're supposed to count each day as an entity unto itself. Right? Echot, Shnayim, Shloisha, Esrim, Ushmoinosh, 28, 29, 28th, but 28. Each day a separate entity. What does that mean in terms of our discussion? It means that we start every day as a new thing. When you start every day as a new thing, and you try to understand your life and understand the world, and to recognize Hashem fresh every day, you wash off a lot of the dirt that we accumulate from worldly experience. You literally wash it off. Because every day, you don't say, oh, I learned it yesterday. Every day, you have to then go back and see, did God create the world? Do I see godliness in the world? Do I see godliness in my life? Is it real? When I say, Moide Ani Lefonecha, to return my neshama, is it real? Do I really relate to it? If you do that every day, as an independent, from scratch, as a new experience, you wash off a lot of the dirt. This is what we say in Sffirass Oimer. We count the day. We count the day as a new day. And by counting is a new day, we wash away zuhamo, all kinds of dirt, all kinds of impurities. And we're able to start looking clearly and purely on the world and on our lives and on the Torah and Yiddishkeit. We break through all the barriers. And if we do it repetitively for 49 days, for 7 weeks, which is all the midas, we really reach a very clear level of clarity and be ready to receive the Torah. And this is what we say. We count each day as a separate entity. We start from scratch each day. But we also recognize that each day we have all the accumulation, all the accomplishments that we had till now, of the 3 weeks and 4 weeks that we already counted. It's all coming with us. So when one reflects that you already counted 40 days, 28 days, you already counted 4 weeks. So he says, oh, I already counted 4 weeks, I'm finished. So no, I counted 4 weeks and I'm going to count further. I said Moidani 28 times, I'm going to say it again. Fresh, as if I never said it before. Of course he said it before. He doesn't forget what he accomplished yesterday. But he tries to understand it afresh. What does it mean? So you take the weeks and the past days and you start afresh with this day. That is what it means to live. This is what it means to live. This is how you count Sffirass. This is how you say Ani. This is how you daven every day. You put on tefillin every day. This is how you say Baruch She'omar and Ashrei. And this is how you wash to eat. And this is how you eat. And this is how you bench. This is how you learn. This is how you live. That is the means, the process by which we get washed off. We get cleaned. We come at the end of a day, we have had that experience of the day. We had that new insight that this day brought. That new brightness that this day brought. This is Sffirass Oimer. As I said, I want to touch other things. We have tomorrow, in Mitzvah Hashem, Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni, you will see in the Bogdan Hayom Yom, I believe it must be tomorrow. The Frierdiker Rebbe said that Pesach Sheni teaches us that there is no such a thing as lost, as something that is lost and it cannot be regained. You can't regain it again. If you miss something, you can always correct it. That's what Pesach Sheni is. There's much to speak on Pesach Sheni, but in view and in light of what we spoke about, Sffirass, we can understand now the principles of Pesach Sheni as well. The principle of Pesach Sheni is, Pesach Sheni, just briefly for those who are not familiar, I don't believe that there are such, but just briefly, Pesach Sheni is that Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach is a unique kind of a Korban. Unique means unusual. There's only one Korban like that in the whole Torah. And what's unique about it? It's a Korban, on the one hand, it's a Korban that every individual person brings. It's an individual Korban, private Korban. But there are many Korbanos that are private Korbanos. But those Korbanos a person can bring anytime he wants. If a person wants to bring a Korban Shlomim, or a Korban Moilo, or a Korban Chatos if he needs to, whenever he needs to do it, he prepares himself and he brings it. If he's Tomei, so he waits until he becomes Toher, and then he brings the Korban. No problem. Pesach is different. It is an individual's Korban. On the other hand, it's also a Korban Tzibur at the same time. It's also a communal Korban, because everyone has to bring it at the same time. And therefore, that creates a problem. It's a private Korban, and each one wants to bring it, but what if he is not ready? If he is Tomei, he can't bring the Korban, so he loses out. So for this, Hashem gave us this opportunity to do it again a month later. That's Pesach Sheni. There are several things that we can touch on Pesach Sheni with the limit of time. Number one, Pesach Sheni, the mitzvah of Pesach Sheni, is among the few mitzvahs very few, that were given, were elicited. Elicited means were asked for by the people, by the Eden. Normally mitzvahs, it's Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Leimer. Hashem told Moshe, tell Eden, do such and such, like we say every day by tzitzis. Vayim Hashem Moshe Leimer. David ibn Esau, I told him, also let him tzitzis, let him make tzitzis. It doesn't say Eden asked Hashem, oh, we would like to make tzitzis. Hashem, yes, make tzitzis. Hashem told him what to do. Every time it's like that. Shabbat Sheni is one. There are two mitzvahs like that. Shabbat Sheni is the first one that Eden asked for it. They say, hey, how come we're going to lose out? And Hashem said, you got another opportunity. Huh? The second one. The second one is the mitzvah of Yerusha, inheritance. The order of inheritance. That a son inherits his father, and if a person passes away, he doesn't have sons, the daughters inherit. The whole seder of inheritance is also something that was solicited. What? Yeah. The whole principle that you miss something, then you can make up for it, like Pesach Sheni. This whole principle is rooted. You know what it means? It's established. It comes from in what we discussed before about Sffirass. I always use this example, this illustration. We should always remember this. That just as when a person has a cut on his finger, the finger will heal because the neshama is whole. Even though the finger is cut and it's a physical matter, but the neshama is whole, and the neshama will make the finger heal. The same thing, the neshama is always fresh. The neshama does not get tired, does not get old. Just for you to understand and to know, you sometimes see elderly people who can hardly walk, who can hardly do anything. That's not a reflection of what's going on in their minds. In their minds, they're as fresh as anything. They're alive. Because the neshama doesn't get tired, doesn't get old. Life, we know that life is not the expressed by how fast we move around and how well we can jump and scream. Life is what's going on in the head, what's going on in the heart. Like we spoke about Sffirass. Sometimes a person can be on the same place and experience life more than somebody running back and forth and making a lot of hullabaloo and a lot of tumult and disturbing everybody. So Pesach Sheni tells us again basically the same thing. The Eden were Tomei. And they're saying, yes, we are Tomei. We are Tomei. Does that mean that we have to miss out? Our goof is Tomei. But our neshama is still the same. So how can we miss out? And the Rebbe said to him, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You can, and you're going to have the opportunity. And it's important to understand, important to note, that just as Sffirass, the counting of the Omer, as I mentioned before, Sffirass Oimer, we Yidden, did it before Hashem gave us the mitzvah. We counted the days as we were coming out of Mitzrayim. Because we already experienced, we already appreciated what it means to receive a Torah, and we were anxious to receive it. We were counting the days. We already knew, mitzad, from the perspective mitzad on the Shomis, we already knew what it means, a fresh and rejuvenation. The same thing in Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni came by whom? They came and asked for it. They said, what do you mean we miss out? We can't miss out. This is, besides everything else, this is an important reminder, an important point that we should all recognize. It is possible to pull ourselves out from any situation, no matter how much impurities we experienced and how far we sank or whatever happened, because the neshama is always pure. It is possible to pull ourselves out from everything. So it means both. On the one hand, if somebody needs to pull themselves out, they should never give up, and it's possible. It means also the other side, that a person will never reach the end of his line. Say, I've reached the end, and this is how high I can go. I cannot go any higher. No such thing. No such thing. There's no limit how far a person can go. Because ultimately, the koiches that we are employing are not the koiches that we have in the guf. This is the koiches from the neshama. And these koiches become rejuvenated and come from scratch again, and therefore there is no limit. Rashi, I think I mentioned to you once, Rashi, everybody knows Rashi, learned Rashi. And I explained at one time that Rashi, one of the greatest talents of Rashi, besides that Rashi, the way Rashi explains the Chumash and the Gemara, especially the way the Rebbe showed us the insights and the genius of Rashi. But there's one very special thing, in addition to all that Rashi had an extremely clear means of expressing what he wanted to say. Such clear, nobody else has it. It's brief, it's straight to the point, and extremely clear. That's clearly a very special blessing, very special quality. And so they asked Rashi one time, how did he do it? There's not an extra word. Everything is exactly. I want to show you sometime. If you bring me the Gemara, I'll show you. There is one place, Rashi didn't finish the whole Shas. Rashi wrote most of the majority of the Shas, but there are many Mesichtas that are missing from Rashi. Like Mesichta Nedorim, there's no Rashi. And Baba Basra, which is a very large Mesichta, there's only the first few blot, 10, 15, 17 blot, and afterwards Rashi didn't finish, and his grandson, the Rashban, finished it. It's the Rashban. And there's one or two comments on the Gemara that Rashi commented, and the Rashbam also comments. In other words, he doesn't start where Rashi left off, he starts a few comments before. And immediately you see that the same thing that Rashi says in 2 words, he says in 2 lines. You see it right away. Mesichta Baba Basra is the longest Mesichta in Shas. It has 177 pages. the longest Sichta Shas. The reason it's so long is because the major commentary on the Sichta is the Rashbam, not Rashi, and the Rashbam takes up a huge amount of the page. So they asked Rashi, how did he do it? After all, he's a human being. I mean, to have such precision. So Rashi said very simply, he said like this. Everything that I write one day, the next day, I review it. Fresh. Not this, right away, in the same day. The next day. I come the next day, so I come to it completely fresh. I learn it again. And then I have a completely a new view, new look at it. And I cut out whatever needs to be can be cut out. In other words, the principle is that we have a new look all the time. And that's what Pesach Sheni is, and this is what Sffirass is. One more thing that perhaps we can touch is the coming of Lag Boimer. And that also is part of the of Sffirass. You know that Sffirass is a time of mourning. We mourn, it's Avelis. What do we mourn? We mourn the fact that during Sffirass, Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim, thousands of Rabbi Akiva's, 24,000 of Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died out. Reb Shimon ben Yochai, there were 5 Talmidim, and Reb Shimon ben Yochai is one of them, that restored Torah, essentially. The Rabbi Akiva had these 5 Talmidim after this whole tragedy, and then he rebuilt the whole Torah Shibra Al Peh. If not for that, it would be nothing. And so it says, why Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara says, why did they die? Why did Talmidim Rabbi Akiva die? Because they did not conduct themselves respectfully amongst themselves. So, again, there is a sikha, the Rebbe explains, how is it possible? Rabbi Akiva is the one who taught and explained how significant, how important is the inyan for V'yavta l'recha kol mecha. Akiva said, V'yavta l'recha kol mecha, this is a klal of the Torah. The whole Torah is included, just like Hillel said, Akiva said. Just that the whole Torah is included in V'yavta l'recha kol mecha. This is his Talmidim. Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim. They surely learned this principle from Rabbi Akiva, and they surely practiced it. So how can it be that they had such disparity between themselves? So the Rebbe explains that surely this differences, this difficulty, and this lack of respect amongst them was something which came as a result of Avodas Hashem. They really meant it as part of Avodas Hashem. How so? Because they were all very great scholars, and they were all Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, and they all learned from Rabbi Akiva his teaching. Since that every person understands somewhat differently than the next guy. Every person understands things a little bit differently. So when they were learning from Rabbi Akiva, each one had his own understanding of what Rabbi Akiva said, which was a little bit different than the way his neighbor understood. And since that they were dedicated to Rabbi Akiva, so they couldn't tolerate how each one thought that the other one is misinterpreting, is misled, misinterpreting what Rabbi Akiva said. And therefore they couldn't tolerate it, that they should misinterpret the words of Rabbi Akiva. And this is how it came that they should have such breakdown amongst them. Okay. So, but we have to reflect on, and there are many explanations, how do you counter it and so forth, but I want to talk on the simple level amongst ourselves. The principle is like this. There is what Rabbi Akiva said, and there is the way I understand what Rabbi Akiva said. And it's important that each one of us should understand what Rabbi Akiva said. In other words, each one should understand Torah the way he understands it. But at the same time, we have to always remember and understand that the important thing is not the fact that I understand it. In fact, the important thing is that this is what it says in the Torah. And therefore, as long as I am learning Torah and he is learning Torah, so even though we have differences, we still know that he is also learning Torah. And essentially, we're all bound, we're all dedicated to avodas Hashem, not to avodas Atzmi, not to satisfy my own understanding, but to avoid it, to do what Hashem wants. This principle, to recognize that everyone in this world, particularly amongst us here in the yeshiva, each one individually, with all their differences, that each one is different than the other, each one has a direct connection to Hashem. Like we spoke about before in Sffirass and in Pasach Sheni, everyone has a direct connect. Therefore, our respect for one another is not because he is so smart, or he is so kind, he is so good. Our respect for one another is because he is an Eved Hashem, he serves Hashem, he does mitzvahs from Hashem, he learns Hashem's Torah, he's Hashem's child, he's a Yid. This is the most important quality that we all have. And this is the quality that allows us to be, like in 770, where you have thousands of people, each one is different, and hopefully we can all be together. Sometimes not in such great success, but most of the time it's pretty good. It's very important to always recognize that, to always remember that we are interacting with another Yid who is a part of the Jewish nation, who is Hashem's child, and who does Torah mitzvahs. And even if he doesn't do Torah mitzvahs, Hashem still gave him, he's supposed to do Torah mitzvahs. And therefore, we have full love for every Yid. Not because we are so good, but because he is Hashem's. It says in Hayom Yom, you may remember, do you read Hayom Yom after davening every day? Yeah? So it says in Hayom Yom that Avas Yisrael is a greater madrege than Avas Hashem. That love for a fellow Jew is a higher madrege than to love for Hashem. And he explains it over there. So Sffirass, because it is such a serious time, because of what occurred in our history, is a time to remind ourselves of this principle and refresh and reflect on it. The Rebbe should help, should bless each one of us, each one of you, that all the learning that you learn here, from Sffirass from Pesach Sheni, from Talmid Rabbi Akiva, and from Chumash and Rashi, and everything, it should be absorbed. You should feel at home. You should feel good with it. You feel the taste of it. It should not reject anything. Like a person eats something that's tasty, so his body accepts it. He absorbs it, and then it gives him health. Like we spoke one time, something that doesn't taste good, the body rejects, and it doesn't turn out to be healthy for him. Everything should come to you sweetly. You know that the minhag is, the minhag Yisrael, it's a minhag, it's a custom, that a child, when he is 3 years old and we cut his hair, then we wrap him up in a talis, we bring him into cheder, we bring him into yeshiva, and the Rebbe, for the first time, shows him the olive base. And each one does different, but what I've seen, they would take honey, and he would write the olive base with honey. And he would let the child say olive, and when the child says olive, he would let him leak the letter. Olive never leaks. It says base leaks. And what I saw, I myself didn't have that experience. In Russia, we didn't have that cheder. No, huh? I didn't have honey, and I didn't have a cheder, I didn't have anything. But my children, Baruch Hashem, did have it. And so the Rebbe wrote this olive base, and he said that the Torah should be sweet to you. Everything that you should learn, the best bracha that I can give you, that it should be sweet to you, so that you would absorb it, and you would relate to it. You would feel, oh, this is a good thing to take. This is a good thing to learn. It's a good thing to experience. It's a good thing to know. And be successful. And we should all reach like Boimer, very big day, and Matan Torah, Mitzvah Hashem. And we should all be zoicha to Geula Shlema with Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Korev Mamash. Of the what? Rashbam. Shmuel Ben Meir, what?